actually liberated because no one actually wrote about them. There are more than 10 women who liberated black people, but then nobody actually wrote about them. And today, we focus on Harriet Tubman, who passed away on March 10, on the 1900s. And today our guest speaker, who will be elaborating more on the life of Harriet Tubman and feminism and black feminism specifically, Mama Yaa Ashentawa Ngidi from the Institute of Africology. She has worked in 35 countries and she's basically a Pan-Africanist, a womanist, a black womanist. She is all of that. So help me welcome Mama Yaa Ashentawa Ngidi.
I give thanks, first of all, giving all honor and praises to the great ones in whose footsteps and whose shoulders I dare to stand on. We give all honor and praises to those who have, in the times over 1,000 years, liberated our people to this time. We give thanks to those who are liberating our people now because we are many. We give thanks for those who are liberating our people who are yet to be born, and we have all confidence and hope that finally the black race will be given its final emancipation because those who are yet to come will not compromise. Israel Etu. Israel Etu. Africa. Israel. Thanks. I just want to open and say give thanks to those of you young people who keep on making my heart. I keep falling in love with young people like yourselves because at least I know that the journey that I'm on and the journey that I've been in, it's not going to waste. You know, I was asked the other day, why are you going to BLF? Aren't you going to compromise Africology? The Institute of Africology was set that we can speak in any spaces because we are here for the total liberation. And that liberation will be in churches, it will be in mosques, it will be in synagogues, it will be in political parties, the total liberation of Africa, that's what we want. And so no one can confine, define, or constrain me in the space that I choose to go. So I wanted to make that very clear and get that out of the way because I was questioned about that. If you hear the dogs, keep going. If you see the torches in the woods, keep going. If they're shouting after you, keep going. Don't ever stop. If you want a taste of freedom, keep going. That is the opening that I'd like to start with. If you want a taste of freedom, keep going. And our great mother, Harriet Tubman, when she spoke, she went straight to the thing, you know, if you're going to be doing this, don't sit on the fence. That's the first thing I want to open, that this race is not for those who want to go back. It's for the race for those who want to go forward. And it's important that we understand the nature of this great mother. We can name over 50 queens, starting from the great Queen Hatshepsut, who ruled 60 years of Kemet. She was a tradeswoman. She created protocol amongst the nations of Kemet, up and lower. So my sister, I will say to you that there are many of us who know the 10 liberators and we are willing to teach them. Can I go to my slides? Can you make them bigger? So every great dreams begin with a dream. Always remember you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars and to change the world. Africans have always been cosmological in our thinking. We don't believe that we only own the earth, we own the heavens. And the first heavens is the heavens that's inside of you. You open up your skull and you look at the brain, it is the exact embodiment of the heavens. So when the great Harriet Tubman said, reach for the stars to change the world, she's saying first you have to go into your heavens before you can change anything. And if your heavens is not ready to change, then nothing will change. So the heavens we talk about is not this Christian so-called heaven that you all want to go to. We want you first to go to the heavens of the mind. Can I go to the next one? So Mama was born as Araminta Ross, and she later adopted the name Harriet after her mother. She escaped from slavery in 1849. She became a conductor in railroad. The underground was a lifeline for slaves escaping for freedom. I want to stop here because Africans, we never left the continent as slaves. It's a very important thing that we keep changing the narrative. Africans were taken from Africa and enslaved. It is when they were taken onto the continent of North America, Brazil, the Caribbean, they became slaves. No slave was left from the continent. It was Africans that was taken from the continent and brought into slavery. Because you see, if you don't change that, the reparations become a different thing. Who left the continent? Africans. They belong to groups of people. We know that. So when we speak from here in terms of reparations and repatriation, they were not slaves who left here. They were Africans who were enslaved. We have to change the narrative around this, right? She was a black African-American whose daring rescues helped hundreds of slaves escape to freedom. She became the most famous leader of the Underground Railroad, which aided slave Africans fleeing to the free states or to Canada. The blacks called her the Moses, the biblical figure who led the Jews from Egypt. And it is very appropriate because we know that Moshe is a black man. We know that as a fact that now when we call on the Moses spirit, we are calling on an African who liberated the people called the Hebrews. Can you go to the next one? So she escaped from slavery in 1849 and went to Philadelphia. She vowed that she would return to Maryland and help other slaves. And of course, you know, the first person she took out of slavery was her kingman. That's a very important aspect. African women, if you're not ready to liberate African men, then you're not liberating nobody. Because you can't go liberate other people's race and try to sleep up there with other people's race and say you're liberating this race to give them a soul when you can't even liberate the African man that's in front of you. So part of your biggest work is to liberate the African man. And that is one of the other lessons that we want to talk about, because she worked hard to liberate her king so that she would have space to do more work. And it's important and fundamental in this time, because I noticed that in this black liberation movement, you have all these brothers and sometimes no sisters. Then you have 3 sisters and 20 brothers. We need the equality. And that equality must begin in this room where we are liberating each other. Are we there? Yes. She led her parents to freedom in Auburn. Enough people, they don't want to tell their parents that, you know, we know that you are Christian, but you need to move up. Because I'm not going to do, I saw the Pope the other day looking at some woman's breasts. And the Pope is still a man, you know. So we now know that even the Pope himself have to get into his manly self, you know. So we have to not be afraid to liberate our own mothers. At the age of 17, when I came back from Denmark, understanding that what I've learned about myself as an African, I had to liberate my own parents. The first thing my parents did was ask me not to come back to the house. And for 5 years, I never entered my parents' house. But today, I am the stone to build a refuse. And my own parents overstood that long time ago that Africans did not need Christianity in the way we are practicing it now. We need spirituality based on some fundamentals, Asian principles of Mahat. Are you there? So don't be afraid to teach your parents and to free them up. She returned to Auburn, where she helped raise the money for the black schools, and in 1908 she established a home in Auburn for elderly and needy blacks. It became known as the Harriet Tubman home, and the people of Auburn erected a plaque in her honor in 1978. A portrait was put there. Harriet Tubman made her transition in 1913, and she was buried with military honors and was responsible for the emancipation of thousands of Africans enslaved by the racist capitalist slave owners in the United States. Tubman's threat against the racist institution of slavery was so great that in 1856 a $40,000 bounty was offered by the South for her capture, and she became a major leader in the abolitionist movement. There's this thinking that, you know, they talk about somebody called William, there's a man from England where everybody likes to quote him, you know, that he freed up more slaves. That's not important. The important thing is that Africans, no matter how small we did it, we liberated people. And we're in this place where we're looking for saviors. We don't need any savior but ourselves. We are the only ones who need to do this. For her brilliance and determination in the struggle against slavery, remember Tubman as a revolutionary woman. At age 6, she was forced to work as a house servant and frequently hired out by her owner to the other masters. And by 1849, the owner died, leaving his wife to pay his debts. And fearing that she would be sold to a slave, Tubman decided if she wanted to be free, she would have to take her emancipation in her own hands. At 13, she was sent to work in the fields. So how old are most of us in this room? We're about 16, 18, 20, 21. At 13, a decision was already made. You have to take your path. And sometimes the path is not always understood. Can you go on? Is that the last part? In 1863, during the Civil War, she engineered and commanded the raid at Combahee Ferry that freed over 750 slaves on one day. One day. She was able to liberate. And we're going to get into the tactics of this liberation because I think that's where most of us who came here wanted to hear. Tubman was greatly admired by other abolitionists, and John Brown described Tubman as one of the bravest persons on this continent, meaning North America. Tubman helped Brown recruit soldiers for the 1859 Harper's Ferry raid. Look it up because that's a very important part of the American history that nobody knows. What black people did on those ferries that was taking the soldiers. She was part of them that slit the throats of the soldiers coming down on the Mississippi, and nobody talks about it because it's too embarrassing. So she was referred to as the General Tubman. Frederick Douglass the Great said of Tubman, excepting John Brown of sacred memory, I know of no one who has encountered more perils and hardships to serve our enslaved people. Harriet Tubman's bravery and ceaseless struggles against the enslavement of Africans paved the way for many African revolutionaries who followed, from Ida B. Wells to Assata Shakur. Tubman's legacy is a reminder for all women warriors today that revolutionary change is possible to achieve through organized struggle. And that's the key here. We have this tendency that once we get a little idea, we want to go into our silos and start building movements. But yet all the movements are in place. We might not like the leaders of the movements, but we don't have enough numbers to fight the war. So why do you want to scatter yourselves? That is the question I ask all the time. And if you hear the dogs coming, she says, keep going. If you see the torches in the woods, keep going. If they're shouting after you, keep going. Don't ever stop. People have also asked me, why are you doing Africology? Why after all these years, you are still doing this? Because as far as I'm concerned, there's some dogs behind me barking and I can't turn around. Because if I turn around, I have lost house, I've lost possessions, I've lost lots of things. But if I keep thinking about how much I've lost, today the revolution will have to stop. Because there's not enough of us that can keep this thing going. I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything. The sun came up like gold through the trees and I felt like I was in heaven. That was the day when she realized she was free. She was in Philadelphia, free from slavery. Next quote. I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. Because there are many people in this revolution that will not want to leave the status quo. Amen. They will not want to get out of it because if I get out of it, where's my salary? If I get out of it, what will my parents say that I've disappointed them? If I get out of it, I won't be buried in a Christian way. If I get, we're starting about even when we die, what's going to happen? Which church are we going to be buried in? That's the most thing. Go back to that one. I think if anything you get away from from our dialogue today is that if I freed 1,000 slaves, I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. We could have passed in this revolution long time, but there are many people who didn't think there was anything wrong. Many people are thinking, oh, if we just had a party, then the bread wouldn't be more than 4 rands. If we just had a party, then maybe we could get milk at 3 rands. It's always about our stomachs in Azania. So everything is about how much food we are not getting because we have been now focusing on how full our belly is. Bob says the belly full but we're hungry.
Yes, I. Yes, I.
The belly full but we're hungry. So what is the point of getting your belly full and you're still hungry? Next. I was the conductor of the Underground Railroad for 8 years, and I can say what most conductors can't say. I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger. She was a hard woman. Many ones can't deal with that. She lost a lot of people who felt that they should be the one ahead of the game. But you know what? She decided, you either run with this thing, but I'm not losing any passenger to this race. And you have to be determined how far you're willing to go with here, because right now you're in a nice space, you're feeling good, you're doing a revolutionary thing, but really, who have you taken along with you? You can't win this race if you're not taking the numbers with you. And we have the numbers. We have the numbers, but unfortunately, our minds are still saying that, oh, I'm just searching for myself first, I'm just dealing with myself first, and I can bring others. But as you're searching, you need to bring others. It's an important aspect of the railroad liberation. The next one. There was one of two things that I write to: liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would take the other. For no man should take me alive. I should fight for liberty as long as my strength lasted. What is the choice you have? What is your choice you're making? Are you joining revolutionary just because you want to wear the black, red, and green? Are you joining because at this point nothing else matters, I'm going through a phase? What is the choice? It's not about joining, it's a choice. What is the choice you're making? When you get up in the middle of the night, what is the choice you have made? What is it that you know for sure? What is it like Harriet Tubman? She knew, I had to choose. I'm going to either die or I'm going to give my liberty. And that's the decision that most of us every day as Pan-Africanists, we decide. People, they can't wait to catch Yaa Ashentawa out wearing a non-African outfit. But that will never happen until the day I breathe. They will never see that, because my decision is, anytime you see me, you must identify that this is not a Chinese woman, this is not a European woman, this is an African woman. I do not do schizophrenia very well. I don't want you to find me in two different spaces. And that's an important decision. So if that is your agency, as Brother Buntu always reminds us, what is your agency? What is your choice that you have made? Because whatever your choice is, people will know this is the person we can trust with that responsibility. That is the person, we know what their trajectory is. They're not coming off it. That's what makes us masters of our game. In Egypt, at the age of 40, you got your first degree. This foolishness of people getting a degree at 21. What do you know? You got your master's at 80 because you would have mastered what you have learned. And the only way you can master what you have learned is if you are able to teach it. Most importantly, if you are able to impart it. So this hurrying up of trying to get degrees and masters is a waste of time. Because until you have mastered that which you have learned, then you are not a master. You are just a paper master. But you're not an experiential master. And you cannot teach that which you have not mastered. So our Kemetic teachers were right. And we still insist that Africology, you will never get a degree until you have done 40 years, which is why I don't have anybody who can give me a master in Africology. Because it will take me 40 years to master this. I had reasoned this out in my mind. There were two things, and she repeats it again. If I could not have one, I must have the other. She spent years making up her mind to do this, and she did it. So whatever you're getting yourself involved in right now, make up your mind. Who are you trying to liberate? Is it only yourself or is it the race? Because I say to people, don't spend time talking about white people and Indian people. That's not important right now. Don't spend time talking about the other. You need to spend time in your waking moment talking about how am I going to liberate my brother and my sister? How am I going to make sure the black race has what they need to become the great race that they will become? All this matter of time that people spend, you know, whether we must include white people or black, I responded to that. White people or Indian people, that's not our concern. You cannot be getting up in the morning thinking how you're going to kill the Boer. How about how you're going to liberate the minds of the African man and woman? And that takes more time than killing the Boer. More time. So what would you want to spend your time on in your choice? the liberation of yourself and your people. Next.